Hey guys, Andre here, as well as Ash, and we're here with Bill Trinen and Nate Bihldorff to talk about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on Nintendo Switch. So we've been playing it a little bit, probably not nearly as much as you guys have. I hope not, yeah. So I guess our first question is, can you just give us maybe a bit of an overview of the game, as well as I'm curious as to if you know when Ultimate started taking shape. Was it always a plan to have this be the ultimate form of Smash Brothers, or did that come about, halfway through? It's like, well, we're already adding all this content, let's go all the way with it.
Well, I mean, it's all summed up in the word ultimate, I think. It's the ultimate crossover fighter. I mean, if you have played a Nintendo system and you have a character that you like, it's probably in there. Over 30 IPs are represented, over 60 characters.
Over 60 characters, and that's only counting the fighters, and then when you were to get into assist trophies, you've got even more IP on the list there. Yeah. I mean, it is a Smash Brothers game, and as I like to say, there's never been a port. Every Smash Brothers game has been a new game, and that's what this is. So they've made a ton of changes to some of the core mechanics. First and foremost being the speed, right? And once you do a big adjustment to speed like they've done, and then you start to layer in things like the directional air dodge and some of the other nuanced changes to the mechanics, then they have to go through and rebalance every character, which makes it obviously a big undertaking, and that's really what makes it a whole new game. But I think, as Mr. Sakurai mentioned, both in the Direct and also on Treehouse Live, really, from the beginning, he really wanted this to be the ultimate version and bring back all the characters that kind of missed out on some of the more recent releases.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and actually, as a follow-up to that, I find it very interesting that the game has been sped up and that it almost feels like there have been a few bones thrown to the more competitive side of the community, because in the past, that seems to be something that Mr. Sakurai had shied away from, like after Melee going to Brawl and Wii U. And is that something, do you know, is that like a goal from the beginning to kind of just maybe get things slightly closer to the competitive side again?
I wouldn't even say it's that. I mean, certainly, he's the one who made Melee, right? So
right.
His goal with any game is really to make it as accessible as possible so that as broad of an audience can play. But at the same time, he's very intentionally always designed the series to have layer upon layer of strategic depth to it, so that the people who really do want to play and learn and master the game have that depth to be able to dig into. And that's pretty consistent, not just with, I think, his approach to Smash Brothers, but with his approach to game design overall.
Yeah.
Nate, when I spoke to you a couple of years ago for Breath of the Wild, as I recall, I think you were involved with naming the game, come up with the title Breath of the Wild. So I was wondering if you had a similar role here with Ultimate, especially with, I believe the game goes by a different name in Japan. I think it's called Special there.
Yes.
So could you, so were you involved with the name, and could you explain why there might be a difference in titles across regions?
As with all titles, we have a long conversation with the development team to try to, figure out what's gonna fit it, and then the secondary conversation is what's gonna fit it globally, of course. And we did talk about Special. I think it has a different nuance, I think, for the Japanese market than we thought it would have for ours. I personally didn't think that Special was a big enough word for America, because it didn't really encompass what this game is, which is the ultimate Smash Brothers game, the ultimate crossover game. So that's how we were sort of drawn to that word, and that's the dev team agreed, and that's how we.
There are like a billion special editions out there versus ultimate editions, right? So,
and and I think if you were to go to a special edition, that implies an older game, and this is not that. It's a brand new game. So,
and of course, being Smash Brothers Ultimate, the anchoring point here is the fact that everyone is here, and that's the big deal. And of course, a huge part of that is Snake. Snake is finally back.
I think a huge part of that is Pichu.
Well, Pichu is the biggest part, of course. Snake is big.
This might be the smallest part, yeah.
Why is everybody overlooking Pichu?
True. Very, very true. I'm just wondering, because the reason Snake originally got into Smash was because, Mr. Sakurai was friends with Mr. Kojima, and that was kind of a thing. Now, of course, Konami being what it is today, and the whole Kojima thing, did you find it difficult to get Snake back for Smash Ultimate? Is that something you talked about, or just kind of cool to see him back?
I mean, I think it's just cool to see him back.
Yeah.
And the way he came about was undoubtedly the way really all the characters made it back in. Every single one of these characters, especially those who are outside of Nintendo, require a ton of communication with the individual rights holders. And Mr. Sakurai and his team spend, I don't even want to know how many hours talking through the details of everything that appears that's related to those IP, whether it's the actual character or an assist trophy or an item related to them or a piece of music or a stage. That's not just something that's there to make Mr. Sakurai happy and he says it's done. He works with all the rights holders to make sure that it's to their specifications as well.
Right.
Well, speaking of bringing a lot of things back, one of the things we've also noticed is we've been going through the trailers already, as we're known to do.
Wait, is that what you guys do?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Unheard of.
And going by what we've come across so far, I think we found 83 stages already,
Oh my Lord.
hinted at in the game. So, can we maybe expect the same mentality that applies to characters to apply to stages, of them all coming back as well?
There's going to be a lot of stages. And you've no doubt assembled a list, but seeing that list on paper, I guarantee you it does not, it doesn't come close to actually seeing it on a stage selection screen, which is, you look at it and it's like, that's how am I ever supposed to decide on this? And then you add on to that, each one of those is times 3, because you're talking about that stage as well as a final destination, as well as a battlefield.
Right.
I think it's going to be very easy for people to be, staring at this screen for when they should be playing Smash Brothers, because they just are, there's such a wealth of choices in front of them. It's like being at a buffet that has too much good food. Where do I start on this thing?
We already had enough trouble in the demo just figuring out what stage and characters to play.
Yeah.
Now, sorry, real quick. You mentioned that there were multiple forms of each stage now, including the new Battlefield versions of each stage. Can you explain, why, or can you tell us a little bit about them appearing in the game and why they might be here?
Well, I think, for Smash Brothers fans, I think Battlefield feels iconic. I think the Omega form that made it into the last version, I think that was because Final Destination also feels iconic. It doesn't get more simpler than a platform hovering above space. But Battlefield with the two little, and then the top one, that increases the amount of mobility that you have in a particular stage. And I think it was just another nod to basically the history of the franchise, which this is, at its core, there's obviously a lot more bells and whistles to every single stage that we see now in modern games. But back in the day, it really is just King of the Hill game on very simple platforms, and it's about your skill on those platforms. So being able to go to any one of these universes that maybe you don't like the particular stage that has been designed there for whatever reason, because your favorite character isn't particularly well suited to it or whatever, being able to go there and play a Battlefield version of it or a Final Destination version of it, I think is it's awesome.
The other thing that's great about it is that, particularly with the addition of 8-player Smash in the Wii U game, they specifically designed some pretty large-scale stages that if you're not playing 8-player, kind of just turn into a rabbit hunt. It's like one player's running away, the other one's chasing, and you're running all through the stage. And to be able to take stages like that and condense those down to a Battlefield stage, where you've got a little bit more variety to your options versus something like a Final Destination, but you're still able to enjoy those settings and the music from those larger stages that you might not otherwise play that much. I think it's awesome.
Well, Nate, what you just said about having your favorite franchises and maybe not loving the stage that's been designed for that franchise, it came out today that there is going to be apparently a hazard toggle in Smash Ultimate, and as an example, I'm a huge Mega Man fan, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Wily Castle because of the Yellow Devil. So, is this hazard toggle? Is that something that disables things like bosses like Yellow Devil? Is that kind of what we're looking at there?
I think the details of that, I think you should look forward to hearing more about as we get closer to the launch date. But suffice to say, I think what's amazing about Smash Brothers, and really always has been, is you can customize these matches to be whatever you want. If you don't like items, just turn them off. If you only like Smash Balls, just turn those on. Now it's like, we saw it in the last generation. Now it's like, what tracks do you want to play on this particular stage? Customize that. It's really about, what do you love about video games? Put that in a pile and play with it, Yeah. And I think that this game is going to be, as with every other one, it'll probably one up the last one.
That's what we did there, one up.
Speaking of what I love about video games, personally, I am a giant video game music nerd, so I love the My Music feature in Smash, always have. Can you talk about any potential changes or tweaks that might be coming to the way My Music is handled in Smash Ultimate?
We haven't gone into any detail on all of that yet, but you bring up a very good point.
Oh, you fell into Bill's trap.
This is, yes,
okay.
Right? Smash Brothers, yes, it is, people describe it as a fighting game. Yes, it has a huge roster of characters. Yes, it has tremendous gameplay. And yes, it has a huge number of IPs that are represented. And in the midst of all that, the thing that has frustrated me the most about the Smash Brothers series is that it has continually been overlooked for its soundtrack. And I think it's because people just look at it, and they're like, oh, it's a fighting game, and they don't even think about the soundtrack. And yet, you look at how much music was in the Wii U version, and the number of IP it was covered, the quality of those tracks, a lot of that stuff was done originally just for the game.
And all the composers that
you, as a music fan, a fan of video game music, my ask of you is be the evangelist. Help everyone understand how amazing the music in Smash Brothers is.
Already,
and so that it doesn't get overlooked this time or overshadowed by the game and the characters and the player, the gameplay.
You got it. People can't get me to shut up about video game music.
Right.
So you got it.
So getting back to the stages real quick, one thing in the demo is Final Destination is available, but it doesn't look like Final Destination as we've typically known it. It looks like Battlefield, or what might be the Final Destination form of Battlefield. Is that what that is? Is that like a placeholder for what could be a final Battlefield, or?
I think,
Mr. Sakurai did say in Treehouse Live that is just for the E3 version.
Okay,
it's not the final destination that will appear in the final game.
And in general, I'd say a lot of what you're seeing here, don't treat it as the final game. This is obviously an event version. Although I can't say that all the characters you're playing as will be in the game.
That's right. Might be a slight issue if that weren't the case.
So going back to the stages for a little bit, there's so many returning stages, and one thing we've noticed is that the design ethos for some of these returning stages seems to vary a little bit. So you have something like Saffron City, which is very much an elegantly remastered N64 stage, versus something like Princess Peach's Castle, which almost feels like a completely redone with the backgrounds just really lush. And so what is the approach that you take with these, deciding how to redesign these old stages?
Well, the first thing I would say, and there's a lot of different gaming media out there. I'm hoping that maybe there's one who likes to do videos that compare things.
Yes.
But I think maybe a good one would be a comparison of the original N64 Saffron City with Saffron City from this game, because I think that would actually be fairly interesting to take a look at what's changed there. But I mean, you make a good point in that there are very different approaches to both of them. I think with looking at something like Saffron City, probably they really wanted to keep those pixelated Pokemon that pop out from the top of the tower, and when you're keeping those pixelated Pokemon, then you have to say, okay, well, what type of a graphic approach to the stage is really going to fit well with when you know that you're going to have the pixelated Pokemon approach coming out of there. And so that probably takes a part of it. And you have other stages like, Congo Jungle is another one that just looks phenomenal. And it's absolutely amazing. And I think there's a lot that goes into it, both in terms of looking at the IP and the individual characters and how do we design it in a way that fits with that IP, as well as in terms of the intent of each individual stage.
Cool. All right.
So with the entire roster of Smash Brothers coming back, a big portion of the trailer was also dedicated pointing out the differences between what's changed in some of those characters. Are there any other differences you could maybe tell us that perhaps wasn't focused on in the Direct, or maybe stand out more when you play with the characters for a longer period of time?
Well, he covered a lot in Direct, man. So there's not a lot of meat left on that bone.
But there is. There actually is. And just to give one example, because I play Zelda a lot. So Zelda's down B, where she calls up the Phantom. The way that move used to work was you just would do the down B, and then the Phantom would charge up and then charge out. And now what you're able to do is with the down B, you can press the B button a second time, and you can send the Phantom out in different stages of completion. And so it starts with just like a few pieces of armor, and then the range on it is a lot shorter, and it does sort of a forward kick with just its boot is all that's there, really. It's sort of this empty boot kind of thing. And then there's about 4 different phases in terms of how much you can charge that up, and each of them has a different range, each of them has a different attack animation for the Phantom, and it's made the move much more versatile.
That's cool.
And the reason that I'm telling you all this is because I've been a Zelda main since the Melee days, and I'm really happy by this change, because it was a move I didn't really use much in the Wii U game, and it's all of a sudden become really viable for me.
He's also got a short hop lightning toe now with Zelda.
Oh, really? Oh,
because of the short hop attack. If you're holding side and you do the short hop attack, it's insta toe death. if he's running towards you, it really sucks.
It's beautiful.
It sounds terrifying.
But along in the Zelda franchise as well, you no doubt have seen Ganondorf's moveset as well, and I'm sure you've played with it. But he didn't feature that in the direct. But his smash attacks are sword attacks now, and they have really wide range on them, and they're really, really powerful.
They're satisfying. Yeah, I played around with
them.
Oh
yeah.
And if you had a keen eye and you watched the video, I mean, I don't know if you guys do detailed analysis of things or not.
We're looking into it.
Yeah, we're thinking about it.
It could be an angle for you guys that could differentiate you from other outlets. But if you look in detail at that character reveal, you may have noticed that Link was shooting 2 arrows at once. And so that was something that they've added, obviously, with it being Breath of the Wild Link, where once you shoot an arrow, it can stick in the ground, and you can then pick it up again later, and then you can shoot 2 arrows at a time.
Now, details.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I really think there's an opportunity for you guys.
Appreciate. I'm gonna write that down. I won't forget that one.
Well, Bill, I'm glad you brought up the Zelda example, because that's something I noticed when I played yesterday, that her down B had changed, and I didn't understand the nature of how, other than it wasn't chargeable, but now you explained that, so thank you. Is that,
I like to explain games.
No. Oh, man. So, is that something, can we expect to see like a more significant style of change like that for most or all returning veterans, or is that something that's gone into for characters that Sakurai might specifically thought needed it?
I mean, because he started from scratch with each of these, I think that if that's your favorite character, you're going to see tweaks everywhere. And that there's so many characters in this that I think you have to be like really, really into a character to probably notice how significant those changes are. And there's definitely a scale. I mean, you have characters who their entire moveset has come through intact. You can see that even in the E3 demo. And other ones like Link that have an entirely new move. His bombs, no more spamming bombs. Now all of a sudden spamming is now a 2-part process where you spam once and then you got to remote spam.
Right. Takes a thought now too.
That's right.
Yeah. But I mean, really, really significant change for him. So I think you're probably going to see a really wide spectrum for veterans as far as the changes that have gone through. But because anytime you make one change, it cascades throughout the entire roster, because that's game balancing. You're probably going to see changes to absolutely everything.
Right.
So just to hone in on something you just said, Nate, so Sakurai actually has rebuilt each character, even the veterans, from the ground up for Smash Ultimate? Is that
brand new game? The characters have been redone. Their models obviously are new, and their moveset may have come through, but since it's a brand new game, that requires revisiting the entire moveset.
Right. Well, speaking of the roster, there is a new, kind of like a new class of character almost, being the Echo characters, or the Echo Fighters. There seems to be some confusion, perhaps, about what exactly classifies as an Echo Fighter. So what makes an Echo Fighter an Echo Fighter? Because some might say, why isn't Dr. Mario considered an Echo Fighter, or Pichu, or Young Link?
It's essentially an Echo character shares essentially the main attributes. So walk and run speed, jump height, basic attack animations, general knockback. So when you have Daisy and Peach, you're going to see those are largely the same. Somebody like Dr. Mario, who is heavier, has much stronger knockback, has different moves. Of course, throws pills instead of fireballs, and now
the pills behave differently than the fireballs do. It's not
it's
not like it's just a cosmetic pill that's doing the same thing the fireball did before.
And he has a brand new down A, which is a dunk. In this particular one, I don't even know if Bill has discovered this yet. But his down A is no longer a cyclone at all. Wow. He slams down with 2 feet. You can actually see it on our website under his profile. But
wait a second, what?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dr. Mario. It was one of the main reasons why neither of us played much Dr. Mario, is because we're too addicted to dunking each other, and he never had one. He definitely has one now. So again, he shares some of the attributes of Mario, but not really any of the sort of global. So that's sort of the line that you can talk about. Same thing with Pichu. He doesn't share all the attacks with Pichu. He obviously hurts himself when he uses his main attacks, which is not the greatest thing. But that's a rough roadmap for what an Echo Fighter is.
Gotcha. Great.
right? Okay.
But we can talk more about Pichu if you want.
Nice.
If there's any differences, about them.
I'm just really excited Pichu's back.
Yeah.
It's the whole 4-5 minute Pichu discussion. Yeah.
So I guess getting into the gameplay mechanics a bit, is there anything that based on the reactions to Smash Ultimate you've seen so far, are there any subtle, more pro-level gameplay mechanic changes that people haven't really picked up on yet in mass that you could talk about?
They've already dug in on quite a few that I didn't even realize we would see so early. I mean, just watching the tournament yesterday, which I don't know if you guys got some time with it, but I saw something that looked a lot like sort of classic dash dancing between KOs out there, and we're already seeing them utilizing the mobility of the aerial dodge in a lot of ways that, I mean, bottom line is the aerial dodge, being able to go in any direction, is just another tool in your tool set. And in the hands of a pro player, that tool is really, really powerful. It can be used on offense, it can be used on defense, and we're already seeing that, at the pro level in the tournament.
Yeah.
As far as other techniques, there's a lot there. Perfect shield, you're not seeing a lot of. I've been watching people play out on the floor. It's obviously really difficult. And it's not like that technique is brand new. I mean, perfect shields have existed since Melee, but they're very different in this one. In Melee, you had to press it right at the moment of impact.
Yeah, right.
Now you're essentially releasing it. And while I've seen some people do it by accident, that is one move that, given time, is going to become a really serious game changer. Because the moment that you break out of that, if you know you're going to do it, you can come out of that right away with an attack, and all of a sudden you basically turn the tables on somebody that thinks they basically are pressing their advantage on you.
Yeah.
If you are really good at that move, it's going to fundamentally change the game. Unfortunately, the window on it is so small that I expect the people to get amazing at it to be only really, really high-level players. I always pretend like I meant to do it. I don't think I've done it intentionally once, but it's a powerful tool.
I think the other thing that is going to be pretty different at the competitive level is the changes that they've done to the rolling mechanic, both in terms of the number of frames per roll now, but also more importantly, I think, as Mr. Sakurai talked about in the direct, is that the more that you're rolling back and forth, the longer you're vulnerable post-roll, and so it just really that's going to have a dramatic impact on people who are roll spammers. So.
Right.
So I'm screwed then.
Yeah, I do that a lot too.
Are you guys stick jumpers, or are you button jumpers?
Button jumpers all the way.
Stick jumper, and so few people are, but I'm a stick jumper.
Oh, wow.
N64, born and
Nice.
raised.
Hey, that's still one of my favorites,
Yeah.
but I gotta go with the buttons. Ain't chance like that.
I wish I had started learning that way back when, because now, especially with the new short hop,
It's hard
that's another thing that's going to change things pretty significantly. Trust me, I like this instant toe. Like, we've only been working on this game for, I don't even want to say how long, but I'm already sick of this. It sucks. He just pulls it out whenever he wants to, and again, we're not anywhere close to pro players, but seeing what they do with that is going to be appalling. It's going to be.
I believe it. I think one of the probably the more exciting parts about Smash Brothers games, or the last couple at least, have been the hype cycle going into them. Like, we had the daily updates on the Dojo, Smash Dojo, then the Miiverse postings with Smash 4. And I know you guys launched the blog for the news for Ultimate. So can we expect daily updates there as well, or is there a schedule in place for when we might expect updates, or how frequent it might be?
Well, I don't know that we want to commit to any...
Let's let the hype start right now by us not telling you.
I know, yeah. There may have been an update while we were talking.
Oh, man.
And you're behind.
Oh, we gotta get out of here.
No, I mean, I think that's sort of been built into the Smash Brothers cycle. The degree to which it's daily versus kind of more spaced out.
Okay.
I think there are plans in place, but we like to keep people guessing.
You do.
Of course, we don't want everybody to only come back at that one point in time and check it out and then be done.
Midnight every day.
There's a lot to explore there. You're going to take your time. As you're waiting, you think maybe an update's coming, go poke around, look at other things, right? You never know what you might uncover.
Right.
I personally don't miss those daily updates. That was my job. I worked on those.
Wow.
Nice.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Sakurai wrote all of them, but our team, of course, did translation and rewrite on
Right.
it. So it was fun. Obviously that's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
Right. Yes.
Pretty much a novel, I think.
Yeah.
Going back to the gameplay mechanics for a second, there's one specific mechanic that was in Smash Wii U and 3DS called Rage. And is that something that will be making a return here in Ultimate, or did it tweak form?
I love. There's my answer right there.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, as we've said, this is an event version, so I think people have kind of, as some of the pro players have been kind of digging around with it, they've also been trying to gauge that, and the indication from them is that they feel like maybe it's there, but they're not quite sure. But of course, all that stuff's still in the balancing phase. So to the degree whether it's going to be something like that's going to be in there and as powerful as it was in the Wii U version, I think is going to get locked in maybe a little bit closer to launch.
Cool. All right, well, I think... Do you have any questions left?
I guess I have a personal one. Just
Is it about music?
It is not about music. But,
Okay, because keep remembering to... Right, don't forget.
well, I will not forget that. No worries.
Is it
But
Pichu related?
It's not Pichu related, but it does start with M. Going back to what you guys were talking about, pros finding their favorite veterans and seeing how they subtly changed. I've been doing that with Mega Man as a Mega Man main. Do either of you play Mega Man, and can you tell me something that's changed about him?
You know what? I mean, you know, on the Wii U game, I eventually played pretty much every character at some point or other.
Sure.
Mega Man wasn't in my top 10
Okay.
of frequency of play, but
Alright.
was maybe top 20.
Fair enough.
But I don't think I've really played him much in this version. Come to think of it.
Yeah, I don't have any details for you.
Breaking my heart here.
There-
No, there will be some.
But no, I do. I played him once, and I remember playing him and thinking that there was something that was tweaked. But now
Well, I can tell you his leaf shield is way better. It's been made way better than it was before, so there's that.
okay.
Yeah.
I
You
thought
should be
there
telling
was-
us, man. If it's your man, you should be telling us.
I
I
guess
know.
so.
I was
Well,
wondering
I mean,
if there was any. Maybe I don't know if there was a difference in terms of when he's throwing the saw blade out, or
It didn't seem
not
so
sure.
far, but yeah, I just figured if they were a fellow Mega Man main, I would ask.
and I think I haven't touched him hardly at all in this. So
Cool.
I guess then, I know, Bill, you presently, or you used to main Zelda, and it sounds like maybe going back to Pichu. So I wanted to solidify
no,
that.
I'm
now.
not. Well, I mean,
Okay, so based on what we've seen so far, who are you leaning toward, or who are you both leaning toward in maining from this game? Like, is there a character you're leaning toward at this point?
All right, I'll go first.
you go first.
I mean, I have basically in the past my three mains. I go back to the of course they were always Mario, Captain Falcon, and Ness. So I'll continue to spend a lot of time with them. However, I'm going to make a point of maining Palutena in this game just because I really love Palutena, but I couldn't play her on the last version because I'm paralyzed by choices. And she didn't have a set moveset.
Right.
And so I never got as good with her as I wanted to because I couldn't decide. It's like, because I was constantly like, oh, maybe I'd have a better balance with these. This has been taken away from me. She has her own moveset, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to be awesome.
Nice.
I like it.
I just did think of something else.
Well, I think we didn't get Bill's
okay,
answer.
go.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
It's okay. It's okay. So, people I don't really have a main. I have like a group of friends that I like to hang out with one by one.
Nice.
With certainly in Melee, I played Zelda was probably my main, but then I kind of transitioned to Yoshi. But I also played a lot of Captain Falcon just because the knee felt so good. But I also played a lot of Marth because that back air dunk was just amazing. In the Wii U game, I focused more on Rosalina, Yoshi. I've always played a lot of Game & Watch as well. I usually try to play as the characters that are most humiliating to get KO'd by. That's kind of
That sounds
generally
about right.
my rule, which is why I'm so excited Pichu is back.
Right.
Zelda, I am really excited for in this game, and will probably lean heavily towards her.
Perfect. That was great. I tried her a little bit, and she seemed to like a lot of fun this time. I love her redesign. All right, actually, we got one question left.
All right, cool. So Ridley obviously is a big deal, no pun intended, or pun intended. So can you just talk about what led to Ridley finally being added to the roster? It's been a long time. Fans have wanted him for so long. Why now? Why was now the right time for Ridley?
It was just the right time.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a perfect fit. It's the ultimate game. You got to have Ridley in there. So.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us,
you,
Bill.
guys.
And
Thanks.
Nate.
No, thank you
Very
for
much-
having us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you, and hopefully play against you someday in Smash,
Yes.
perhaps
Yeah.
online. So,
Looking forward to it.
all right. Of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for lots more from E3 and everything else about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Perhaps some in-depth analysis videos, maybe, Bill.
Yeah, you guys should think about that.
We'll look into it. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye.